I have to disconnect the audio on my second device here. So good morning. Welcome to the session on the lightning talks, what's happening at our universities. And I just wanted to give a few technical directions. So, you know, everyone at the end of the session, I'm going to allow everyone to talk, all the attendees. So you will be managing your own mute and non-mute. So unless you're actively talking, I'm asking that you mute yourself, because otherwise we get an awful lot of background noise, and it gets difficult to hear sometimes the person who's talking. So and then there are two ways you can ask a question. You can either use the Q&A feature that's part of Zoom and type in the question, and then that will be read off by someone and you can say who you want to direct that to if you wish to direct it to a particular person, or just open it up in general. Or you can raise your hand. That function is available as well. And then you will be asked to ask your question when it's your turn. So, and then just one more thing. I've noticed that in the Eventbrite site, people have registered multiple times. You only need to register once for the whole 2 months of this symposium. It just gives me the mechanism to email you the link for the next session, but you do not need to register more than once. You know, and again, I send out the email usually the Friday before the session, and then again the Monday and Tuesday. So you should get multiple emails with the link just in case. So if so anyways, and just wanted to let you know, and I'm going to pass this off to David Dreisbach.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is David Dreisbach, and I'm an Assistant Vice President for Research in the Office of Research and Economic Development and University Graduate School at Florida International University. I wanted to thank you all today for taking the time to attend what I think should be a very informative and action-packed part of the virtual symposium on expertise systems. I think this will test our Zoom agility as we go through the next hour. Over the next hour, we expect to have give you really a good tour of what's going on throughout the state, with over 8 organizations in the state, and also not only just 8 organizations within organizations, different perspectives within the institution as well too. So I think from that, you'll probably get an idea from where you are in the institution, where you may be able to find collaborators across the state, as well as within your institution on these types of initiatives. So without much further ado, I'd like to start with our first presenters today. We have Rebecca Augustiniak, the Director of Florida ExpertNet, and Amy Finley, and also the Associate Director for Florida ExpertNet. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so let me get my PowerPoint up and going. And I need to share my screen. Sorry, you think I've done this several times, but it always hides my Zoom controls. So there we go, share screen, and I want to share that. Share, there we go. All right. So I am going to stop sharing my video. That's a little distracting. So good morning. Again, my name is Amy Finley, and along with Rebecca Augustiniak, we're here to talk about Florida ExpertNet, which is a statewide portal to expertise across Florida's universities. Our mission is to connect researchers, business, and industry, and government with resources and expertise in order to foster both collaboration and economic opportunity. All right, I'm trying to, there we go. So ExpertNet began in 1998 based on legislation to provide a one-stop shop for identifying expertise and resources in all of Florida's universities. We partnered with the SUS Florida Board of Governors in creating the site, and we've been around. It just shows how long we've been around. This is what our sites look initially, which look pretty old now. Here's our current site, which I hope you're familiar with. You can see we're featuring COVID-19 here. And here's where we're going with stronger focus on business and industry, and we hope to launch our new site soon. So our scope is to be a statewide portal, and we have 12 university partners. And in our system, we have our experts consist of principal investigators and their co-PIs, center and institute directors, and inventors. We have over 9,000 faculty experts, 500 institutes and centers, and more than 2,000 technologies available for licensing. And we are a homegrown system. We built with our own team of information managers, web application developers, and multimedia designers. So our data curation, it's the most challenging aspect of assembling an expertise system. And we have the added challenge that we're working with 12 universities. For our expert and project baseline data, we get XML feeds and spreadsheets from our institutions, the research offices. And we have various protocols for matching, verifying, and cleaning all the data. That's a short way of describing a lot of work. Then we assign research terms from our taxonomy. We have a controlled taxonomy. And then we use a knowledge management system that drives a collection of additional content from our experts. For technologies, we actually created spiders to scrape the content from the university websites. And we've been able to capitalize on our data by sharing and repurposing our content in new ways. So Expert Connect is a free app that allows anyone to embed customized ExpertNet content within their website. So that you can find that on our website, ExpertNet. If you look at the bottom, there's an ExpertNet Connect link. And it's fairly simple to do, and we're happy to work with folks to enhance that if they have specifics they want. We recently published a COVID-19 special edition page promoting expertise and resources, which are filtered based on that topic, and then have the ability to do that on other specialized topics as they emerge. And then we have the Innovation Exchange, which is a customized interface for businesses to help in matching them with expertise. So we are actively exploring opportunities with other stakeholders to share data and reduce redundancy. We created the Symposium as a starting point in establishing collaboration and a community of practice for Florida. And thank you for your time. If you have any additional questions after this webinar, please contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Next, we're going to head down to Boca Raton and talk with Karen Scarpinato at Florida Atlantic University. She's the Senior Associate Vice President for Research there.
Thank you, David. Okay, let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, so ours is a homegrown system as well. And let me turn off my video. Okay, so ours is a homegrown system as well, and we are coming from it from a slightly different angle. We decided not to go with expertise network or an expertise database, given that we find it's really hard to update and maintain. And then we also find that our researchers really don't use it that much. And we are also looking for our students to find research projects. Oops. Okay. So what we try to do is a bottom-up approach that really centers more around projects rather than people. And we have currently two different modules, if you like. One is called Meet Sparks, one is called Fun Sparks. The whole thing is called Team Sparks. And the Meet Sparks is really what I'm primarily going to talk about today, because that is the one that centers around projects and is like a matchmaking tool. It's like your match.com for faculty to find other faculty or researchers, and for faculty and students to engage. The Fun Sparks is really the next step. It's a project management tool for grant applications. So this is what Meet Sparks looks like. You have these tiles that you can go into, and you have projects that are labeled with, under science or computer engineering. And when you click on one of these tiles, it looks like this. You have a list of projects that are submitted by the researchers themselves. We do not submit those. Those are submitted by the researchers themselves. And you can click, if you see a title that interests you, you can click on one of these. This is, what it looks like when you want to submit a project. And when you click on one of these, this is what you get. There is, general information, and there's a description. Most importantly, there are tags that are also given by the researchers, and these tags connect you to funding opportunities and to other researchers. So you get an alert if somebody else, for example, with autonomous systems, submits a profile or a project, or if there's a funding opportunity that's being pulled in, and those are listed here. For collaborations, you can see here on the right side, there's a I want to collaborate button, and there's a button for contact the author. The I want to collaborate is not highlighted here for me because I have not submitted my resume. You have to have your resume, and that's kind of like how we're forcing the profile part of this software to work. So the individuals actually have to work on their own profiles. And this is what the profiles look like. You can search for, so it has an embedded expertise network, if you like. You can search for users, and you can, look through these in any which way, look by departments and all that. So there is an embedded expert network in here. It's just our primary goal are the projects. Real quick, the second module that we developed in this tool in Team Sparks is called Fun Sparks, and that's really a project management tool for grant applications. So once you have your team created, this is where your research development folks could go in. They add the different parts of the project, of the grant that are required, and then they can basically assign those and track where are they, how close to finished are the documents that go into this grant application. All right, so the benefits that we've seen so far, this is more a bottom-up approach. It's very much faculty-driven. It allows faculty to see projects that are going on around campus and that they would never be exposed to because anything is on this platform. We found it very, very helpful for students, actually, because students are usually intimidated and also don't know who to contact. And they're, for whatever reason, reluctant to look over websites, but they will use this tool. So they browse through the projects that are available and then contact the faculty mentors. So this, is a very nice tool for interdisciplinary team building that's tied with funding opportunities through these tags that I briefly mentioned. And then there's a project management tool associated with it as well. And if you'd like to contact me, there's also a website. It's called teamsparks.com. But feel free to contact me. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. It's very exciting. Now we're going to go on to FIU, where Brian Cooper and I will be speaking. Brian Cooper is Associate Dean for Engagement and Innovation at the University Libraries, and Brian will kick it off.
Good morning, everyone. Can you imagine something making Google Excuse me 1 second. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I just had seemed like my microphone was going out. Okay, can you imagine something making Google more intelligent and equally driving an experts platform? What if you heard that something was linked data? The same linked data that Tim Berners-Lee, inventor of the World Wide Web, imagined would lead to a semantic web of knowledge understandable by machines. Well, the latter has yet to materialize. But linked data is used by many, including the Digital Public Library of America and the international Vivo community and FIU through scholars at FIU. And yes, Google uses it too. If you search Google for a place to eat, linked data is used to serve up reviews from one source and from another source if the restaurant is open or closed, and other details without your specifically asking. In addition, what if you heard that the graph database, a product of linked data, is poised to challenge traditional relational databases pervasive at universities? Well, this past July, Forbes magazine's artificial intelligence blog detailed the rapid ascent of graph databases with expected peak by 2030. A third development related to Vivo is something called GraphQL. It's a type of API that originated out of Facebook and is used to display its 1.7 billion interconnected profiles. GraphQL is different and nowhere near the same thing as a graph database, but both work extremely well together to syndicate experts related university data. And at FIU, we are following Duke University and the larger Vivo user community on this to make scholarly marketing easier, helping drive institutional reputation. Together, linked data, the graph database, and GraphQL, parts of the larger architecture that we use, are poised to provide greater power, scalability, and importantly, flexibility to Vivo universities. We also believe Vivo is cost-effective for scholars at FIU, not just because it is open source, freely available to all, and adopted and supported by the esteemed users in this slide, but also because we can integrate diverse resources from key institutional vendors, such as Clarivate Analytics, Digital Science, and Elsevier. Last, if you think linked data is too complex or off the beaten path, we hope you will come to understand otherwise, and that if you can create a spreadsheet in Excel, you can work with others to build a linked data scholars platform at your institution. Dave?
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, as Brian mentioned, we're excited to leverage a world-class technology infrastructure with scholars at FIU, which we believe is going to become a critical component of FIU's discovery architecture ultimately around scholarship and innovation. The visualization here that you see to give you a better idea of the types of data elements that we are ingesting into scholars at FIU and linking to each other to promote discovery. This means essentially instead of drilling down on a directory of experts, it is a platform which allows people and machines to drill down, connect within the institution in many dimensions and see the interrelations and connections. So for instance, instead of drilling down on people, you can drill down on organizations and find related people, technology, and news. Leveraging the relationship and connection information will be a valuable, key component of this platform going forward. So if you could go to the next slide, Brian. Next slide, Brian.
Sorry, Dave, it's not moving forward. Have a bit of a problem here.
All right, let me see. Do you want to maybe stop? Oh, there you go. Just took a little while. So as I was talking about the different data and interconnections, here, you could look at a profile of a faculty member, which is your typical way to look at an expertise system. Not only can you explore the profile of the individual, but you can click through the profile to see the organizations that faculty members affiliated with, of which one of them is a preeminent program at FIU, the Center for Children and Families. You can also dive deeper into the scholarly output that's within his profile to see who he's working with and also the other projects that he maybe have been involved in at FIU and his collaborators. So it's really that ability to see the different connection points between people on campus we think is going to be very valuable. Just this morning, I received an email from a research group that was looking to dive into this data to analyze the effectiveness of their research program as it relates to faculty that are in their group and how much they're working together as co-principal co-investigators. If you can go to the next slide, Brian. Another very important aspect of the discovery architecture is that we are developing at Scholars is related to how we plan to share the data in the future. As we implement the GraphQL discovery layer, we expect many websites across the university will begin to use Scholars at FIU as a data source, similar to how Duke University does it. So in this instance, you will find the same data when going to the preeminent program website, as well as the website for the college or even the academic department. If you're interested in hearing more about Scholars at FIU, we're going to have a deeper dive on June 9th, and we're also going to be talking about it a bit in more detail about the data next week. Thank you for your time, and then I'll pass it on now to the Peggy Wright-Cleveland, who's the Director of Faculty Development and Advancement at FSU, as well as Tiffany Phillips, the IT Support Specialist there. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tiffany Phillips. I'm the IT support specialist for faculty development and advancement at Florida State University. My colleague is Peggy Wright-Cleveland. She is the faculty recognition director at Florida State University. We're going to be talking about the faculty expertise and advancement system, which we colloquially call FEES. And we truly take the approach of one day at a time. Prior to 2008, FSU faculty going up for promotion and or tenure used a Word doc template to sort their CV into categories approved by the University Promotion and Tenure Committee. It was apparent that we could use these categories as a starting place to create a system where faculty and administrators could share the CV information for collaboration or evaluation purposes. So as you can see here, we have a little bit of a synopsis of why we created this, with the core aspect always being collaboration of faculty work. And I am going to let Peggy talk about how we actually got started.
Hi, everyone. FEES is also a grassroots program or tool really developed by the needs of faculty. We're a big campus and faculty wanted to know what each other was doing. And so that was one of the primary reasons that this strange group of folk were called together and dreamed up FEES. It was always imagined as a faculty development tool, which might make it a little different than other kinds of expertise systems. The idea was that not only could we allow faculty to collaborate with each other and recruit graduate students by promoting information that they were working on, we could use this to connect people who had won awards that someone else wanted to apply for or nominate a colleague for. And we could look at the development of departments across campus and see how they could be better supported by administrators. So it was always imagined as a faculty development tool. And we were fortunate that the College of Education was very involved because we had an associate dean involved, and they really piloted everything that we did. The unfortunate part of the grassroots design is that we never had any funding, but we did have several full-time appointments that were allowed to spend their time on this project. Tiffany?
Okay, so one of the main things that we wanted to avoid early on was having faculty enter their entire 30-page plus CV by hand. That was one of the things that we frequently got feedback from faculty, that they were supportive of the system, but they didn't want to have to do a whole bunch of work to get it started. So very early on, we incorporated a variety of ways, as you can see here, to import citations into FEES. In addition to those import features, we made it possible for departmental staff and student workers workers to serve as delegates for faculty members, either at the college, department, or individual faculty member level. So if a faculty member had a teaching assistant or a graduate assistant, they could nominate that person to enter just their own data. On the flip side, we actually have most of our colleges, they have delegate access as well to help with promotion and tenure time, faculty evaluation time, etc.
As you might imagine, there were several challenges that we faced along the way. Initially, the challenge was getting administrative buy-in. It was a very difficult budget year for the state, and we were told repeatedly this was a great idea. You get no funding from anyone. But we continued to build something that was useful, and then the next step was the faculty buy-in, because as Tiffany mentioned, the initial data entry was really cumbersome. So once we created ways that made that easier, we had more faculty buy-in, and frankly now with new faculty, it's not even a question. They embrace the system and they like the ideas that motivate it. So currently our challenges are really about keeping it flexible enough. We have never policed the information, the data entered in the system. Faculty are completely in charge of their own CV information that they enter. Where they put things and how they assign their own work depends on what their department chair wants and what their dean wants, which makes it very useful for faculty, departments, and colleges, and perhaps a little quirky when we look at it as a university and we're comparing data. But we have to have this flexibility built in for people to comfortably and kind of honestly represent the kind of work that they do. We remain a program that has one full-time programmer, and so his work is always full. Certainly there's a certain amount of maintenance, but there's development that happens every year under a board of directors. And so we're always imagining more things that we can do with this data, more ways we can be helpful, and keeping up with our imaginations is a challenge.
If you'd like to contact us further, we have our email addresses listed on the screen for you. And we are going to be doing a follow-up talk in a few weeks. So be sure to check your schedule of the symposium. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Peggy and Tiffany. Next, we're going to move over to Florida State University Libraries, where we'll have Devin Soper. He's the director of the Office of Digital Research and Scholarship at the FSU Libraries. Go ahead, Devin.
Good morning, everyone. So thanks so much for that introduction, David. Today I'm going to be talking about some work that a range of partners at FSU have been doing to integrate ORCID with our campus systems. So in case you're unfamiliar with ORCID, it's an identity technology which provides researchers with the ability to identify and distinguish themselves from other researchers possessing the same or similar names. It also provides a pretty robust and comprehensive profile, data profile of the researchers' activities as well as education and so on. Now, the important thing is that these identifiers are integrated with research workflows, such as grant applications and manuscript submissions. And these integrations support automatic linkages between researchers and their professional activities. So once a researcher claims their ORCID identifier and profile and uses their identifier at the time of grant or manuscript submission, these linkages enable ORCID to automatically detect new grants and publications and add them to the researcher's profile. This information also importantly becomes available to university administrators for data harvesting and analysis purposes through ORCID's API. Apologies. Okay, so a little bit about the local context at FSU. We've had our ORCID institutional membership since 2018, and this was initially obtained through a partnership between the academic libraries, the Office of Faculty Development, and the Office of Research, though it's since grown to include several other partners. And the institutional membership comes with the ability to integrate up to 5 campus systems. And as you can see on the slide, we have several systems at FSU that are great candidates for integration, including our faculty expertise and advancement system that you just heard about, our institutional repository. Pivot is one sort of grant opportunity database at the Office of Research, and also not represented here, our new grant submission portal, RAMP. Our top priority integration was with FSU's faculty activity reporting system, as we knew that this integration could provide our faculty with an immediate benefit by streamlining the process of populating data in the system. And the next priority, also not represented on this slide, was to integrate with our central IT directory so that ORCID IDs could be stored with other key information such as researchers' employee IDs, email, role, rank, department, and so on. That work was carried out by our campus IT staff and took some time to complete, but we're happy that it went live earlier this year. And this integration has been a really critical step for us in terms of outreach as well, because our campus IT was able to make the connection extremely prominent in the my.fsu.edu portal that all of our faculty, staff, and students use on a weekly or even daily basis for a variety of different tasks. This might go without saying, but outreach and faculty buy-in are absolutely essential here. Integrating your systems with ORCID and developing tools for querying data from the API is only really useful if there's a critical mass of researchers at your institution that have bought in, created an ORCID ID and are using it actively in their research workflows. Also why the integration with the IT directory was so important, and why we also planned a launch of a campus-wide sort of website alongside that integration to house information about ORCID and also provide a central portal where people could go and register and connect their IDs. In the month following the launch of this website and that central IT integration, I'm happy to report that 1,000 researchers at our institution connected their accounts with FSU. So we were really thrilled with those numbers. Looking ahead, we plan to continue our work on outreach to our campus community, in addition to planning integrations with still more campus systems, and probably our grant submission system will be the next likely target. So thank you very much, and look forward to answering questions.
Thank you, Devin. It's really exciting to see the stuff you're doing with ORCID there. Now we'll go to the University of Central Florida and hear from Sarah Nars. She is also within the library. She's a scholarly communication librarian. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much, David. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen now. Hopefully everyone should be seeing that. Go ahead and start that presentation. So thank you again so much for having me present today. It's been exciting to hear what everyone else is presenting and leveraging ideas of things that we can do. My FSU colleagues mentioned sort of a grassroots effort, and I think much of what we do at UCF, and specifically at UCF libraries, does come from much of a grassroots effort. So today, while I'm not going to talk about broader expertise systems, I am going to be looking at some of the ways in which the Office of Scholarly Communication and the library is working to develop some of these projects, as well as connecting researchers through our research lifecycle. So just a little bit about UCF Libraries and our Office of Scholarly Communication. Just like that grassroots effort, I feel like we're a very small but mighty unit, staffed of myself as a ScholComm librarian. Sometimes we have an adjunct. We try to keep one whenever possible, but really our grassroots efforts comes from our ScholComm Working Advisory Group. And so because we're a small unit, we really rely on that working advisory group to help us facilitate a variety of different projects. And in fact, this sort of 20 to 25 librarians and library staff members who volunteer in addition to their daily responsibilities have helped make the OSC what it is today. In fact, they advocated for an institutional repository, for a formal unit, and they really undertake a lot of projects and activities, one of which that I'm going to talk about today is our research lifecycle. And you can see we have certainly several areas of focus. Research support is high on that list, which really led to the development of the research lifecycle, and that's the tool that I'm going to highlight today. This is a mental model that we created. It started in 2011. Again, that sort of working advisory group worked to develop this to help connect our researchers on campus to units on campus with specific expertise to help them with research support and services. At the time, that was certainly something that we heard from our faculty and researchers broadly, was that it was difficult to understand on campus who had specific expertise and who did not, and who to go to. And so we wanted to create that mental model. One, it illustrates the research life cycle itself, and understanding that is both iterative and cyclical. And so we wanted to put that in a visual way, but also again to connect our researchers to specific units on campus. You can see that there are a variety of different color codings, and those identify specific units that a researcher could go to for assistance. We also incorporated things like the grant funding process to help make that identifiable and visible for the researchers as well, because certainly in some cases grant funding is going to be a critical component to their research. You'll also see several buttons that are not color coded. They are grayed out. And so that's something that we're looking to develop in the future. Those are things that we are not supporting broadly on campus, but are looking to continue to support and possibly be able to develop. So there's always new opportunities, and certainly campus collaborations has become very important with that. Which leads us to the broad campus collaborations that we're doing. We certainly work with a lot of different units. Office of Research, Faculty Excellence, and our Faculty Center for Teaching and Learning are big ones. I've heard many of you speak today about things like fees. That's something that we're talking about with our Faculty Excellence unit right now. They're very interested in it from a perspective of an expertise system that helps with awards and annual reporting. So we're looking at some kind of comprehensive faculty bibliography and stars. So I'm excited to connect with my FSU colleagues about that. We also do sort of general training and workshops to help provide research support and connect researchers to each other. So again, more of that grassroots component. But we are looking to develop different kinds of tools as well. So we're looking at different strategies, whether it's a broad formal expertise system or it's something a little bit more informal, like an open access and grant funded research guide to help connect people and leverage synergies of knowledge between different units on campus. So that's something we're doing with our Office of Research. We're also certainly looking at increasing what we use with STARS and Selected Works, which is our online faculty profiles as well, and then other additional projects like open access podcasts and things like that, that are again, more grassroots, less of a formal expertise system that can bring folks together and leverage expertise and synergies. So with that, thank you so much. I hope that was informative. I've definitely looked forward to today's presentation. Please feel free to reach out if you have specific questions about the research life cycle. And with that, I will turn it back over to David.
Thank you, Sarah. I definitely concur that the resource is a great one. I printed it out a couple years ago, and I've definitely referred to it all of the time. So next we have here at University of Florida, Kevin Hansen. He's the Assistant Director of Informatics and Technology within the Clinical and Translational Science Institute.
Thank you, David. All right, everyone see that all right?
Yeah, I can see it. Perfect.
Thank you, David. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thank you for your time. Today I'm going to talk about Vivo at the University of Florida, and here I say 10 years of expertise representation. UF was fortunate to be a part of some of the original grants back in 2009, 2010 that started the development of Vivo. So I was thinking that some of you might not know what Vivo is. I know that David and Brian talked about it briefly for a second there, but I want to go back and say that Vivo itself, I like to think of it as Facebook for scholarship sometimes, but essentially it creates an integrated record of the scholarly work of an organization ready for reporting, visualization, and analysis. So if you recall back last week, Rafael Vaca on Monday talked about some of his network science activity and the type of analysis that you can do with this semantic data. And so his network graphs that show clusters of activity around scholarship is just an example of some of the work you can do. Naturally, it has been mentioned, it is open source and free, and it is available from durspace.org/vivo right at this moment. So I'm going to talk about some of the back-end activity that we do with Vivo. FIU did a great job of showing some of the front-end screens and what are some of the visualizations on the page and what the profile looks like, but I want to talk about the back-end here. So we run a production system available at vivo.ufl.edu, and then we run a stage system so we can do testing and experimentation on some of our tools and whatnot without, altering the public data. And so these are the hardware specs on this. The production system is a publicly available website, and then the stage system is private and local only to the UF network. Both of these systems point to a database server, and this database server is a little bit larger and running MariaDB. And so both of these systems are running Apache, and I think it's Fuseki for the delivery of the profiles, and then they all point to the database server. We also have a data server or a tool server that is also running MariaDB. They're all running on fast disk, and the tool server runs a lot of our tools that we use for ingesting data. So right now, currently, our numbers are roughly, we have about 182,000 articles, books, chapters, conference papers, reports inside of our Vivo, and we have represented about 336,000 people. You probably will ask, well, UF is about 80,000 people. Why is there 336,000? There's a couple of things contributing to that. One, we allow all staff, students, faculty, graduate students, everyone to create a profile, but also in our ingest process, when we're pulling people in, we'll pull in their co-authors as well, which contributes to our ability to do some of the network science activities and diagrams to kind of really show their network outside of UF, as well as they collaborate with others around the country. And then as new faculty come in and we start ingesting them, then their networks that they were a part of at other universities start pulling in with their people that they have collaborated with. And then we have roughly about 26,000 grants represented in our expertise system. So I really want to spend a couple slides talking about some of the data tools that we have developed. So UF Vivo uses several processes to import data from both internal and external sources, and then we run tools that help disambiguate the data while ingesting. So first and foremost, we run a help desk for our system. In the past 12 months, we've had about 359 requests, and then 90% of these have been CVs. So at any point, if someone emails our help desk asking for help to get into the profile, we typically always volunteer saying, hey, we noticed your profile might need some updating. Can you send us your latest CV? And then we have a data entry operator that will go through and extract their information off of their CV and enter it into their profile. And so our data entry operator is really fast, and she's really good about processing a lot of CVs very quickly. And we've created tools that help the data entry for her. So if she just types in a PubMed ID or other identifying information about the profile, we have tools that can kind of look that up and help with that entry process. So our internal sources, naturally the university maintains a warehouse of grant information from our Office of Research, person information from our ID systems, and then student data warehouse, and then which also has things like courses that they're taking, and then overall organization information. And so we have a couple of tools that we have on GitHub that we have built that ingest this data. We have some that are dedicated to the grant ingest, and then other ingest for a person ingest, so to speak, and then a grant ingest, and then we also have, we're pulling in organization information. We all like to maintain something called what we call the Vivo Researcher Index, the VRI, what we call it. This is a tool that helps with our disambiguation of our tools. So we have a table that has the University of Florida ID, the UF ID for everyone, the link to their profile and their email address, and if available, their ORCID ID. And so as journals and publishers are, allowing people to use ORCID ID or their email. These are the key identifying information about publications that we can pull in. And this really helps with our disambiguation. So as our tools run, they're checking this researcher index. And then as we update and load information, we're updating our index with new people that are arriving at UF from time to time. So moving on, thinking about our external resources, we have an ingest process that goes into PubMed and represents our medical community on campus. We have multiple colleges within the UF Health Science and academic health areas, and PubMed helps pull that information in. And then we also are still working on tools that pull from Clarivate's Web of Science information as well. So that represents our larger areas of campus as well. As you're importing data, naturally, you want to think about the data that you're pulling in and how can you check it. So we have developed a D-checker tool, and it does roughly about 52 queries on our data. And it's checking things like, are there duplicate emails in our system? Do we have profiles, like multiple profiles that have been created by mistake? And we look through for these by duplicate emails. And then we're also looking for duplicate articles. As you're pulling in from Web of Science and PubMed, they could pull the same information in. And so our disambiguation tools catch most everything, but on the other end, if it doesn't catch it, we have tools here like data checks to look for these problems. And then also, there's kind of there's people that do not want to be published in our expertise profiling system. So some people set privacy flags on their profiles at UF, and so we honor those. And then things like, the University Police Department, people working in animal care services, they kind of have sensitive roles, and you don't necessarily want to publish their information on the profiling system. So now I want to talk about the Harvard Catalyst Profiles Disambiguation Engine. First off, Harvard calls their CTSI, which I work for, the Clinical and Translational Science Institute, they call it Catalyst. And so their CTSI has developed a profile system, and they have also created a disambiguation engine of their own. Their information pulls from PubMed and Medline. So again, this helps our academic health center or health science center colleges a lot. And we will have tools, here's a couple of links there, to access documentation for how the disambiguation engine works. So I mentioned Harvard Catalyst's disambiguation engine because we also have other projects that we use Vivo for. So in this case, we are on a grant that is trying to represent the metabolomics community and all metabolomics researchers across the United States. And so we're employing Vivo in this project as well. And since it's all in the health science space typically, or we are using the Harvard Catalyst's disambiguation engine as a tool with this Vivo, and have plans to further incorporate the Harvard Catalyst system into our prime Vivo, our main campus Vivo. So the Vivo and this other project that we're talking about with metabolomics, we're using a feature with Vivo called TPF, or triple pattern fragments. And so we're not using the Vivo front end. We've created our own front end, but the main thing that we're using from Vivo is a really well-organized ontology. And so we built this other website that uses the Vivo ontology and represents the people in the metabolomics community across the country. So we have a couple of data sources, and we have about 1,300 or so people that are represented in that system. So Vivo can be used across multiple applications, not just a university, but you can also think about it from, if you're in a coordinating center grant, how do you represent the people that are in that community? So that's another application of Vivo. Acknowledgements, I want to thank the Vivo team. We have about 7 people that help contribute either through software development, through data entry, through system maintenance, and then also our CTSA is a great contributor to our Vivo efforts, and also some icons that I've used in this slide. So thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, now we're going to have University of North Florida. We'll have John Kantner. He is the Dean of Research and Sponsored Programs there.
Good morning. Looking at this from another perspective up here at University of North Florida, the northeast corner of the state, just to give some perspective, since we were just talking about UF, we have about 400 tenure track faculty here and about 150 instructors at UNF. And historically, of course, UNF is known as a regional comprehensive university with an appropriately modest research profile. Nonetheless, of course, we've had our own expertise systems in place. One of those that we rely quite heavily upon is going to be this expert gallery suite produced by B-Press, which also provides us with our digital commons document archiving system, which is used for white papers and theses and dissertations and so forth. So the Expert Gallery Suite at UNF has, of course, quite a bit of information on faculty who choose to create profiles here. The library has been very good at trying to promote this resource, but it does, of course, rely upon faculty to enter their own information. It will pull in, it will ingest other data based on ORCID IDs, but at the end of the day, it requires, of course, the faculty member to create the profile. We have about 75 faculty, give or take. So it'd be about 20% of the faculty here have profiles here. And one important aspect of this is that it's primarily outward facing in the sense that anybody, students or the public, can come to this resource and search for researchers, faculty at the university based upon search terms that they enter and work that they've entered. It's not quite as robust when it comes to connecting faculty with one another because, of course, they actually have to make the effort to do that. And one thing you'll notice here is that one of the trending experts is me, which is just because I was looking for my profile and trying to see when the last time was I updated it, and that immediately put me as a trending expert, which is probably not quite accurate, but in any case, there I am. So that's one of our resources that has been around for a while. Another one, which is actually run by the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs, is Grant Forward. Now, Grant Forward, just like the name suggests, is a third-party product that's used for faculty and other researchers who are interested in trying to find funding opportunities. And they can create their profiles and identify their research interests. And it actually provides fairly decent tools for searching for and helping to identify to faculty opportunities for them to secure external funding. This too, however, relies upon faculty to create their profiles. They're unlikely to do so unless, of course, they're interested in sponsored projects. And as a result, we have about 29 faculty that are in here currently. Should be more, but we've not quite done our job marketing this to get faculty engaged. One thing about Grant Forward is that to access it, you actually have to have an account. So the only kind of networking that would be able to take place at the moment is between those 29 faculty who have entered their profiles. You can't access it from outside the university. You can't access it even from inside the university if you don't have one of these profiles. However, it does have fairly good tools for connecting faculty with one another based on shared interests. So obviously this is not a great set of tools for us to begin to build teams of researchers. And so my office, and particularly the research development unit at UNF here, has relied very heavily upon this tool, which is a simple Excel spreadsheet, which allows us to identify faculty and we keep track of their expertise so that we can build teams, connect faculty with one another, align up faculty with funding opportunities that we see come to us. But of course, this is fine when you have a small number of active faculty. It is not remotely scalable. It requires a lot of manual entry. And so this is not the best tool in looking forward. And looking forward is what we're doing here at UNF. We have a new president, we have a new provost, we have a number of new deans, and a new strategic plan, which has greater ambitions for UNF's profile in the research and scholarly world. And so we are actively looking at other tools to try to allow for more robust networking between faculty, both inside and outside the university, and students. So I've been, of course, very eager to be part of the discussions here to learn about some of these other tools. Some of those tools include Vivo. We're very interested in looking at Vivo as one of those possibilities. So with that, I'll turn it over to the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Now, rounding out the lightning talks, we'll have from University of West Florida, Matthew Schwartz. He's the Assistant Vice President of Research Administration, and he'll also handle the Q&A afterwards. Thanks.
Morning, all. Thank you. This has been great, and I am excited to kind of build off of what John was just talking about there. We are also at UWF. We have about 300 researchers. Oh, by the way, welcome back in time to an hour ago in the Central Time Zone, just going on 10 o'clock here. When I stepped into my position coming in from academic administration and moving into the research administration role, I wanted to do a couple different things. First off, try to create an ability for faculty to connect so that I could extricate myself from that connection mode, and also just to engage faculty in the concept of research administration. We are at UWF, we have about 23% of our faculty, somewhere between 20 and 25% of our faculty are actually engaged in the pursuit or attainment of external funding. We're never going to be 100%. We don't want to be 100%, but we do want to increase that so that we can improve and increase the quality of the services that we're able to provide for our teaching, research, and service. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was work within existing systems at UWF to build out not only a network, a database, but also to allow faculty to find new ways to engage with us. And so I built off of our service desk model, and we use an Atlassian Jira system. Mainly it's used, it came in starting to be used by ITS to create work tickets for their help desk. But now we're using it throughout a whole bunch of different processes, including research administration and engagement, to track and manage workflow requests. And so we built a system out of Jira that is researcher interest and skills database. And that's what I'm going to be talking with you about here. Really the goal was for all of our faculty on campus to mine their researcher data from existing websites, proposal submissions, and manuscripts to build out a network of researcher keywords and topics that would allow both peer-to-peer connections between and across disciplinary silos, and also to support my effort. I came in as was previously an associate dean, and having worked with a lot of people on campus, I often got questions from on and off campus about who does this, who does that, who might be able to help this project, what sort of statistician, what sort of data visualization. I know a lot of those folks, but not everyone. And so I needed to provide something that would allow these folks to do this themselves. So we built out this researcher database. We had a student worker in my office who mined those data for a couple of months to build out this researcher interest and skills database, where we display those results in another university system that we have, a Tableau system that allows us to list out the researcher skills, the researcher interest and skills. We have a list. We generate a list of over 3,000 unique research terms, which frankly is way too long because many of them are way too unique. We need to have things that are a bit, and that's the process that we're working through now, is refining these. We're in a user editing stage, as I will share with you in a moment. But the good thing is we have a lot of data out there, a lot of good different things that are happening at the University of West Florida, and we're managing them through this system. We can do the Tableau allows a searchable database that folks can find these topics. Faculty, staff, and students from inside the university can do a search to find if there's a topic expert in an area that they're interested in. This is on the front end. On the back end, we can and do update and manage these systems so that we can make sure that these data are accurate and updated. It does require some manual upkeep, but not a terrible amount right now. It will require more as more and more people get used to it. We're still very much in the launch and data verification stage. And a key part of that is that another part of using this Jira Service Desk is we've actually provided a way that folks can review their list of topics. And I don't think I included mine. I had one in here that was actually my list, but you can review your own list and then use this form to request an update, either request new items be added or request the deletion of old items. And that's very much where we are now, is a campaign to get, that's my 5 minutes, to utilize this system. And with that, right on time, as if I planned it, I can turn over to questions that we have. I volunteered to manage the Q&A period for all the speakers, so please feel free to share those now. And I'll ask maybe the panelists to, if you are able and willing to please share your video just so folks know to whom they're speaking. And we can, I think we're also, Amy, I think is going to turn on audio functions so people can either verbally or through the chat or Q&A sessions ask some questions of the panelists.
Yes, I'm working on that right now.
No worries. As I am wont to do, I think I might take advantage of the little delay to ask a question, actually, of Karen. One of the things I was interested in about y'all's system at FAU is you said that there are students who are accessing these, and I'm wondering who those students are. Are they prospective graduate students? Are they undergraduate students? Which students are accessing your Meet Spark system?
So those are primarily undergraduate students. We're working with our Office for Undergraduate Research here, Undergraduate Research and Creative Inquiry, and they are actually using that. They lost funding. They had a commercial system that they used originally to connect the faculty and students together, and they lost the funding for that. So then we came along and had developed this system, and they're now using it primarily for undergraduate students. So the undergraduate student researchers can find matches that way.
Excellent, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Pull up the chat so that I don't miss anything. It's over there.
So I had a question. What's for each of you? What's big on your wish list right now?
More funding.
I'll second that. More funding and staff.
Staff person would be great.
And our programmer is retiring at the end of the month, so we really would like more funding for more people and a replacement for him.
That is great. I'll tell you, one of the things that I have is one of the questions that I have, or not questions, but needs I have, and listen to some of these things, is the idea of how to automate this, machine learning or AI and ML to gather these data. And there's many of you who are doing that. There seems to be a question from Rebecca Bryant, and it looks like she raised a question, then she typed it out, and I will read it for her. I'm interested in how the library is a partner in each of your local efforts. Can you speak to this? And that's for all the panelists.
I can start. At Florida State University, a librarian was part of the impetus for this. The library had been talking to faculty, and one of their top requests was to have better knowledge of what their peers on campus were doing. So the library has been involved since the beginning, and they help us build connections to things like ORCID, digital publications, etc. So they're pretty integral to FEES. We talk with their systems, they talk with FEES, and they're involved in all the planning.
I can say from FIU's perspective that the library has been a good partner, I think, for David Dreisbach's area. And we both started looking at expert systems long before we knew of each other and of our mutual interest. And in fact, we in the libraries had an opportunity back when the University of Florida was moving forward with their grant. But we weren't quite prepared to start it at that point. But ever since then, we've been, considering it, and the library, contributes by way of the funding effort largely, working to author with David Dreisbach the technology grant fee projects and to keep the money coming in. But we also, of course, work with Web of Science, which formerly was at Thomson Reuters, but now it's part of Clarivate Analytics. So our relationships with our library vendors are an important source of feeding citation data into our Scholars at FIU site. And then we've also been providing some of the volunteer staffing to process some of the data as well.
Yeah, just like to quickly reiterate, I think some of the points that Brian mentioned. I mean, coming from the research office perspective, I think arguably one of the most important success factors for us is the partnership that we've developed over the last 3 or 4 years, because with that, I think we've been able to navigate the entire environment and assess different technologies, assess different data infrastructures, and assess different initiatives that are going on campus. So I think that to me is probably the most important thing we've done over the last 3 or 4 years.
At UF, initially when the grant was awarded back in 2009, I know the libraries were heavily involved. We have a committee on campus called the Data Management Working Group Committee, and we have members of the library that are part of that. We're a part of that as well, and so we still keep in touch with our library colleagues. But echoing some of what Brian said, definitely the subscription to Web of Science and Clarivate, a lot of the library subscription services for publication data is huge, and so we do have some regular interaction with our library and take advantage of the subscription services. Matt, let me say that Nathaniel directed a question at me about that we collect or ingest information about collaborators for our experts. That's why our number was so high, about 336,000 people represented. So I want to answer that question. So he asks, how detailed is the data collected for the collaborators compared to our experts? So yeah, it's certainly not as detailed. So typically it is their name, it is their email if it's available from the publisher, and then it's typically their organization. And that's about as far as it goes. And then what publication, obviously, that they have collaborated with our folks on. So that's the depth of that.
That's great. You also may see, panelists may see a question from Jeff Agnoli, which I think is very interesting. He writes, when you consider your level of faculty engagement with these platforms, how is it different between faculty of different ranks, assistant, associate, or full professors? Do you have different strategies for each type?
I can speak to that somewhat. So, thinking about it out loud, if we had a marketing department, we would be better about our outreach to our various level of faculty and audience all across campus. But one of the biggest things that have helped us is that we have other systems across campus that pull data from our Vivo. So we have a UF Health Directory system, and so someone has specifically build a profiling system for just hospital type and faculty and doctors in the UF Health system. And so they pull their publication data from Vivo. And so when faculty are looking at that system and they don't see their profiles or see their publications, they reach out to us, and then we start using our tools to try to electronically pull information in. And then at the end of the day, we might do a manual CV extraction for that person. So trying to get people to become invested in your data as a data source is really huge, and that usually piques their interest for engagement.
I can speak to FSU's approach just because I am the contact person that actually goes out and does some of that outreach. And here at FSU, we actually require fees to be used for the promotion and tenure process, both for the tenure track as well as specialized faculty. That has its positives and negatives because while it does force faculty to get their information into the system, it also sometimes creates a little bit of animosity. And so what I try to do is put that positive spin on it to show them how it will actually benefit them going forward. Once they have their information in, they can use it for their annual evaluations. They can keep track of their graduate students for committee purposes. And if it's a full professor, sometimes we encounter the attitude of, well, I've already made it to my highest rank, why would I need to put in my information? And so we approach that aspect from, again, the collaboration standpoint, as well as some of the administrative tasks. We have reports that can quantify the research in a department or college. And so sometimes they're really interested in looking at that aspect of our system. So sometimes we can get that buy-in a little bit better.
I would add that I don't think FIU has formalized a process yet, but when it comes to junior faculty, I think one of the big selling points of an expertise system as we're developing it is that it can really help new employees to find out, who are the people who are working in fields that they ultimately need to know or might want to know. And the potential for mentor-mentee relationships is significant, and I think there's just a lot that we could do to market in that direction.
Yeah, one of the implementation ideas that we've had, I think that we're planning towards, is trying to integrate it into the various processes, whether it be faculty onboarding, graduate student onboarding, those processes. So that's the part, I think we've laid the infrastructure, but now we're moving to how do we integrate it into the different processes.
Yeah, that combination of integration and then showing value to the users is just key to that. And it probably will be, as per Jeff's question, it may well be different for our new faculty versus our more senior faculty. So definitely something to think about. Yeah. Other questions that anyone has, or other comments that any of the panelists had that they weren't able to hold on to? I know we're a little bit over time, but we still have folks hanging on.
No, but I do think we're going to see a lot of each other going forward.
I can certainly say that I've learned a lot looking at what all is out there, and it makes me what I love about all of this is seeing the kernels of, again, that engagement and showing value to people that are through, no matter how mature the system is. That's what they all are, whether it's UF and Vivo or John, your Excel sheets, or what I'm doing. The idea is to try to get that information and demonstrate that value both to the institution and to these users, which I think is key. So I know that if we don't have questions, we can hand things back over to the presenters, and who are, I know we are the hosts, who I know are looking forward to seeing us all here next week.
All right, so thank you all for great presentations. I'm really, this was probably good, the session I look forward to the most, just to see what you all were doing. So just to let you know, next week is the session, The Art and Science of Data Curation. And that's Brian Cooper, David Dreisbeck, and Chris Barnes are going to be presenting on that. And I'll be sending out the link for that this Friday, as well as a follow-up Monday and Tuesday. And just again, to remind people, you do not need to register again on the Eventbrite site. You only need to register once, and you will be getting the emails. And thank you so much. I appreciate you all being here. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.